Hello, and welcome to another edition of Keylingo Live. My name is Frederick Marx, and I am going to be your co-host for today. I'm joined by my colleague and good friend, Ludmila Albelo, who I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself in a second. But before we do that, we want to talk to the audience about why we're here today. And by the way, audience, if you're there with us, we ask you to please interact with us, send us questions. This time is for you, and we really love to hear what you have to say about the content we're providing you today. Today, we've got another edition of a relatively new series that we've started, and it's called Keylingo Trend Talks. And this is a dynamic live event that delves into the viral buzz and trending topics within the translation industry. So far, that's the only industry we've touched on with these trend talks so far, but we're open to doing other industries as well. But so far, we're focused on translation. And each session offers an engaging and insightful exploration into the latest developments, viral posts, influential voices shaping the translation landscape. And we are going to be dissecting those viral posts and uncovering the stories behind the trending topics. And we believe that Keylingo Trend Talks offers a fresh and flexible format designed to keep attendees informed, inspired, and connected. Now, when you see an influential voice or an influential post or an influential topic, it might be there for a minute and then gone. But this live event is an opportunity to go a little bit deeper into those viral posts and trending topics and influencers by fostering a dialogue and having them share their insights and hopefully having you share some insights of your own. Now, today, as you can see, I have got a special co-host with me, one of my wonderful colleagues, a Keylingoer, as we're known internally, Ludmila Albelo. How are you today, Ludmila?
Hi, Frederick, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to co-host. I think this is our first live event in which we are co-hosting, so I'm super excited to be the first one, and I hope to hear more voices from other Keylingoers in the next ones. So I'm super excited to be here today.
Yeah, I'm really excited too, Ludmila. And I don't want to keep saying Ludmila. I've got to call you Lu, which I'm more comfortable
Yeah.
with. It's just one syllable. It's much easier. So we've already got some people sending us some comments saying hello. Please let us know where you are in the world. And also, please don't forget to connect with us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, connect with Ludmila on her LinkedIn profile. She's always sharing some insightful posts. And my name is, once again, Frederick Marx. I'm the CEO and founder of Keylingo. It's a really interesting time at Keylingo. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So this is a really cool time for us. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest. And his name is István Lengyel. And he is the CEO of BeLazy, a company that focuses on automating project management to enhance efficiency and continuous localization across the supply chain. You may not know this about István, but before establishing BeLazy, he was the co-founder of Keylingo Translation Technologies, where he played a crucial role in developing and popularizing the translation management system that everybody knows and loves, MemoQ. And it was one of the leading, it is one of the leading translation management systems. And under his leadership, MemoQ grew into a globally recognized tool, helping freelancers, translation companies, and enterprises streamline their translation processes. István's also been a technology consultant for Nimdzi, and has leveraged his extensive experience to provide strategic advice and insights into the translation and localization industry. His career reflects a deep commitment in innovation and efficiency in translation technology. So we are super happy to have you on board. István, are you there? Let's bring him in.
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Hi, Frederick. Hi, Lou.
Hi
And hi,
there.
everyone joining. Thank you very much for this amazing introduction.
Well, Thank you for having me. It took I had to take a couple breaths to get all of that out. You have such a deep professional career for being such a young guy. And I've always admired you. We've had a connection that goes back a few years, and I've always enjoyed my interactions with you. And I've loved watching how you and your organization have evolved and grown, and seeing how you've been this influencer in the industry. Everybody click on his QR code there and connect with him on LinkedIn. We've got a lot of people joining us from Chile, from Kenya, Cordoba in Argentina, Belarus. So please, let's keep the good activity going and send us your comments as we get into our conversation today.
And if you allow me, Frederick, I want to add something to his introduction. So, when I met him, I think 2 years ago, he first came to me and he said like, "Hola, Ludmila, ¿cómo estás?" And I was super surprised because he spoke to me in Spanish. So I would like to add to that introduction that he speaks Spanish super fluently, which is something that I didn't know. Like, I know you have been living in Spain for several years now, but I didn't know you spoke super fluently in Spanish. And that surprised me a lot the first time that I met you face to face. So I would like to add that data to the introduction.
That's awesome. Yeah, István is multi-talented and multilingual as well. So it's great to have you on board. And once again, everyone, we're going to have you for about the next 45 minutes or so. So if you're keen to take a coffee break right now, or take a little brain break from work, we're happy to have you join us. And I think this is going to be a really insightful conversation from István. And we've organized our conversation today into a few themes. And the first one is the BeLazy story. And before we get into some of the other topics, I think it's a really important one to dive into, to give us some background. So regarding the BeLazy journey, István, can you tell us about how did BeLazy come about? What was your inspiration?
It's been a long journey, so it actually transformed a couple of ways. But like the initial story started in 2017, after I was already out of MemoQ. I was not working there any longer. And then I did I only worked for an LSP 1 year in my life. It's called On Global. And it was later bought by Straker. Actually, was in their office last week, and I reconnected with one of the girls that I worked with.
Nice.
And she was actually the one who I had to substitute when she was on vacation. And they were working for an LSP, and they were using XTRF at that time. And basically, I needed to do all of the copy pasting in order to set up these very simple projects. And I hated doing that. That was the idea. Like, why can't something else do it? And like that seemed like super simple. And we thought that, okay, with this model of companies working against systems, we are going to reach like perfection within a year. It's been 5 years and counting. And the thing is that there is always something else to do. There is always a next step. There is always something that different companies do differently. So we are still en route to this.
Yeah. Well, I love that, because, you impress me as a person of action, and, necessity is the mother of invention, they always say. And I know that LSPs, and Keylingo included, for many years, we've copied and pasted and done things probably in ways that are less than completely efficient. I'm happy to say that we have learned from you and others along the way. And by the way, Lu, who's our co-host today, she is our VP of Innovation. So she helps us a lot with that as well. And I just love how you kind of saw a need right away, and you started thinking about how to solve that need. So, man, I've got to say, we've got a lot of industry friends and people from all over the world joining us today. So thank you for tuning in. I see a lot of you saying things like they've enjoyed watching István's career unfold. That's quite a compliment, István. You're very well known
I just don't know who that is, but otherwise, that's the only
Now, I know something to be true about technology. It's like your original vision for technology often changes over time. And you said you're 5 years into the BeLazy journey. How has it evolved and changed over time from what you originally envisioned it to be?
I think that there has been a lot of changes in the industry. So like the original idea was like enabling continuous localization across the supply chain. At that point in time, there were a couple of givens. There was like a lot of outsourcing to other LSPs. There were like a lot of companies using big translation management systems. There was like basically there was an increase in the industry, so the number of tasks was continuously increasing, and this is something that changed over time. So what we are seeing now is that as things stand since the last year, I think it has to do with the fear of AI, just to mention it. Like in our system, even if we are adding more customers, the number of projects is not increasing as much as it used to be increasing before. So we'll have to see whether this is going to turn around again, just like it turned around after the introduction of the neural machine translation, where the amount of work started like really exploding after an initial period of waiting out what's going to happen, or what will come. But given these changes in the industry, what we were doing is always just refining a little bit like on who we are focusing more. So right now we started working more with enterprises, for example, whereas our initial key player in the industry was the single language vendors, because that was like a complicated yet very tangible workflow, what they were doing. We also started giving a little bit more of internal functionality instead of just bridging the two systems, which is an outcome simply from the recognition that not every problem is solved by existing systems. There are a couple of things like what we call, for example, the quality assurance for project management, which is like if you received 70 files that need to go into 10 languages, are you going to upload 700 files back if you're working, for example, with bilingual files or not? I mean, at the moment, there is no tool for this, which is a simple problem to solve. And project managers need to do a lot of like list checking, one list against the other, against the other, against the other, because on every level there are lists, and like merging these together, giving the tools to be able to see, where the problems can be. I mean, that's right now a whole different set of challenges. This doesn't require different systems from the ones before. It just requires different view of the same data that's out there.
Okay. Well, very interesting comments. A couple of things that you mentioned that I really hadn't given a ton of thought to until you mentioned them, and that was very insightful to me when you said when NMT came along, there was a lull in the number of projects, and as people sort of waited out how the technology was going to impact the industry, and then the amount of work increased again. I have to be honest, I didn't really know that to be the case. And I haven't read, and I think I've read a lot about AI over this last year or so, and I haven't heard that mentioned before. I thought that was very interesting that we might see the same thing here. Is that what you're saying, István?
It is possible. I mean, like back then we were not in business yet, so I don't have any statistics.
Right.
But when I talk to people working at the large multilingual vendors, they were mentioning that this was the case. Okay. So I actually have it like secondhand that this happened. Well, I don't have proof to that, but I think it's still true.
Yeah, audience, take note. That's very interesting. So segue here, István, because one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on today, other than you're just an amazing guy and we wanted to have a chat with you, is because you posted something on LinkedIn not too long ago about the latest release of BeLazy. And I know from a small background, limited background in technology, that there's usually a lot of new features and benefits when companies do a new release of their technology. Could you sort of summarize what those are in this latest release of BeLazy?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, so we release continuously, but communication cannot go continuously. So because of this, we have like, officially we have releases, even though there is something changing pretty much every second day in the platform. But like what we came up with at this point was a technology that we call ledger link. And the word ledger is something that you use a lot in accounting. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we've seen recently was that there are a lot of companies that like to use their translation management systems. But when you look at business management systems like PlueNet or XTRF or others out there, a lot of them are meant or designed to be the leading system. Mm-hmm. So you need to go there, you need to create the project, and then you need to get that into the translation management system. Now, there is only one problem, that if you need to prepare the files, then this does not work. If you need to use the right filters, if you need to make sure that the right TMs are added. So basically, in order to get the right analysis, you need to get first the files processed, checked in the translation management system. I mean, this is not really a need. There is no real need for this. If this is like a regular client that always uses the same TM, and sends you a one-page letter in Word, this is not a problem. But in some of the more complicated scenarios, this is an issue. There is also sometimes the fact that you receive, for example, statements from your customer about the work that you've done at the end of the month. And like there was no way so far to simply take, let's say, an Excel file or something similar, and then put that into a complex system of workflow management where items or tasks need to be opened, job needs to be opened, assigned, deadlines set up, closed, and so on and so forth. So whereas it's possible to import like an Excel file of, let's say, invoices into QuickBooks, it was not possible to do an Excel file of historic projects into PlueNet and XTRF. And what we did is like we turned the whole thing around. So previously, we were able to assign translators or linguists from the business management system like Protemos, XTRF, and so on, into the translation management system. And we were able to close the jobs from the business management system in the translation management system. And now we are like two-directional, which means that if somebody wants to use, for example, the linguist assignment in the translation management system, or what's even more important is the job closing, then the jobs will automatically be closed in the business system. And I think that this is quite a big thing, simply because there are some systems where there is this button like I deliver, and this is what the linguist has to click, and then it's delivered there. So like, why would they go into a second system and deliver there manually? Or why would we have the PM go there and deliver manually if we can monitor this? So this is probably the main functionality, but not the only one.
Wow. I'm sure there's a lot more details for sure.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, go ahead, Lou. What did you want to say?
No, I want to say that sounds fantastic. And I was wondering, you mentioned that even though you do release now once in a while, you are constantly doing improvements to your system and the integrations. And I was wondering, like, how do you choose or how do you prioritize the features or the improvements in BeLazy to ensure to meet these needs? Like, do you follow users' feedback? Do you follow releases from other tools, for example? Like, how do you choose where to start? Because there are so many options out there.
Real tough one. That's a good question. Excellent question. I mean, if I had like a great recipe for this, I would love to share that, but as a matter of fact, so BeLazy is a bit of like a patchwork, because the thing is that there is a certain amount of use cases out there in the world, and there are certain ways of how people and how systems are taking care of something. And basically, we don't have the luxury, because we don't have like unlimited revenue, unfortunately, to be able to work everything to perfection and then just do, round it up. But we are constantly juggling with the different priorities and with the different areas. And as a matter of fact, because there was also like the pivoting of our focus. Like the first focus was single language vendors. Then a lot of multilingual vendors came to us as well. And then now there is like enterprises coming to us. We are basically looking at like what's the current most interested user base. What is our existing user base doing? And there is one more thing, which is something that what makes sense. So from the perspective of classic product management, I don't think that we are applying a lot of the knowledge from there. But like what we are doing is a bit of like sanity checking. Like, okay, how is it rounded up? If I had to do this thing, how is the whole thing going to become one process? And this is something that is very hard in the integration space, because obviously what we don't see is what people are doing in the source system and the target system. We see the in-between, but sometimes you get surprised, because we, for example, had this thing like we didn't know that many of our users were deleting jobs in Plunet. Okay. And then all of a sudden some strange things were happening. And we only learned like through the symptoms what was happening, because otherwise it wouldn't have made sense. And therefore I think that it's still like a very interesting scenario, because originally, and this is changing somewhat right now, because we are now focusing more on building an own narrative to BeLazy. But originally, what we wanted to be is simply a partnership company that is connecting different systems together without like a real presence. Like the goal was not that we become a very visible tool. We just wanted to stay in the background. And it's interesting because I think that from a marketing perspective, staying in the background is very hard to communicate. And
yeah.
and it's never becoming a priority, because there is no trend, that drives you to look at technologies that stay in the background. And it's actually interesting that because of this, we see that we need to build user interfaces now. We need to build something that BeLazy can be used, for example, without a business management system. I mean, this is, for example, what's happening on the enterprise level. That's where there are very few companies that use a business management system. Among the LSPs, almost everybody has some kind of a system that is like the single ledger of all projects they do. I mean, if nothing else, a Google Sheet. But on the enterprise level, this is not really there. And it's also not there for the translators, even though they exist. Both enterprise ones like FlowFit, for example, they are positioning there, and LSP Expert and others on the translator side, they also exist, but it's not like the majority of people using it.
Very interesting. István, before we leave this theme, I have one question that has come to me as you've been talking, and it's regarding this, how you started out focusing on SLVs, and now you've migrated to enterprises. Does BeLazy still have applicability for small and medium-sized LSPs, or is it more a tool just for enterprises now?
No, absolutely not. I mean, basically, what we said is that we want to improve the supply chain.
Okay.
So like the whole focus of continuous localization. I mean, continuous localization is only continuous, and this is something that the world doesn't speak much about, if it doesn't break at the first LSP. So it's like, otherwise it's not continuous.
Right.
Whatever is going to think.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
No, that's
that's
great.
the-
I just wanted to make sure that our audience understood, because they might be working in small or medium-sized LSPs, that BeLazy is still a product for you, and that you should reach out to István if continuous localization is something that's of interest to you.
I mean, we are even trying to make it a product for translators.
Ah, okay.
Wow.
There you go. Very interesting.
So, like, definitely, we are still very interested in covering the whole thing from the beginning to the end.
Okay. Well, we
That's
could
great.
talk all day just on this one theme, but as you can see, we've already gone through like 2/3 of our time almost, and we haven't even gotten to our second theme. So I would need to jump to the next theme, and I am going to hand it over to my amazing co-host Ludmila to lead this segment of the conversation.
Great. And I'm sure that István, you're going to be super excited about this net theme. Because something that caught my attention is that you mentioned you wanted to stay behind the scenes, like not being popular out there in the world. But as it turns out, you have been chosen as one of the top 34 influencers of the industry in 2024. So congratulations for that. And you know that I have right here the February edition of the multilingual magazine where you appear here. The whole list of the influencers has been published. And actually, we have two influencers that were on our previous live events, Christine Gutierrez and Diego Crocheri. They also were here with us. And I was noticing, I first thought like, after all of your achievements with BeLazy in these 5 years and everything that you were talking about, and also your personal impacts in the industry, I noticed that you were actually not chosen because of your achievements, but because of your most smiles. Here you can see. So I was wondering, like, apart from your smiles, what do you think that has contributed to this recognition, like from all of your work, apart from your smiles, of course? Let's leave that one aside.
It's my fear. When I'm feeling uneasy, I smile. The psychology happens to me. Yeah. But I don't honestly know. I was very surprised actually when I found out that I became one. It was like a little bit like I was hoping that maybe somebody would nominate me, and then when I saw it was Alison Furge that from Gala that wrote that like little summary, I was feeling like really honored by that. That was very nice of her. I don't know who voted for me. It was definitely not like fixed. No, no robots were used for the voting. I can promise.
No AI.
Yeah, no robots.
No.
But yeah, definitely it was a surprise to me, and I was very pleased with it. And when I learned that I had to take photos after like 10 years, it was really cold in February to be out there in the nature with like a shirt only. So I will remember that photo shoot forever.
Well, I don't know who voted, but definitely lots of people have voted because you are in the top 34. So congratulations.
István, just real quickly, I want to mention this because you and I, Lou, we talked about this before we got on air today. And I was talking about how, there are lots of different types of influencers, but the first thought that came to my mind about you is that you're an influencer for the right reasons. You're somebody that genuinely wants to help people. You're innovating. You're not out there like intentionally trying to be an influencer. And I think that's the type of influencer that we really want. Somebody that probably reluctantly embraces the title of influencer, but embraces the platform that it gives them to enable them to do things that they want to do in the industry. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. It's actually interesting because I am like, I'm quite outspoken, I think. But like I'm not really trend following, and I've never seen myself like that. I mean, there are things that make sense, and there are things that don't make sense, and there is logic. And what I'm always thinking is that, like, along the logical things, you can find something that other people have not made the not put two things together.
Sure.
In order to know that. So I'm like, I always really had a hard time finding marketers to work with. That is something that's been like my weakness also at MemoQ. If we remember back all those years, that it was always just very hard to communicate the value of what we are doing, because there is like not one theme, an overarching theme, and then everything is like under that. But the whole thing that we are trying to do is basically bring some sense into things that might or might not make sense, and expand on a systematic thinking. So I guess that's it. It's kind of like definitely resonating with me that I'm a bit of an anti-influencer, because I hate opening LinkedIn and I hate posting. I do it just to remain a little bit like relevant, if you like, because one has to. But like, I remember that last week I made that mistake that I was like, okay, now I have time, I'm going to write like 3 posts. And like 2 of them went out at the same time because I messed up the timing. That brace for impact.
Oh no. Yeah, and I totally agree with what Frederick says, that I think that even though you don't fully embrace this influencer thing, I think it gives you like a really good platform to do what you really enjoy to do. And so I was wondering, like, how do you think that you could leverage this influence position to drive positive change, and also to help other people to have this innovation mindset that you talk about? Like, you want to make things to make sense, to be logical, and also like not following trends. So do you think you could use this influence voice somehow?
I mean, there is like, the one thing I like is building some communities, and this is something that I've been like thinking about how to create, how to frame this, because the thing with automation is that it's got a technical side to it, but it's got one thing before that, which is process sanity. It's like eliminating the outliers. It is making sure that, just because somebody coughs at the customer, you're not going to change the process. Like, there is some kind of like self-discipline needed here, which has nothing to do with technology. It's just a mindset thing. And like, what I like to do, and this is what I did earlier this year with Gala, is to try and build a little bit of community of people who can just put out their ideas or put out their challenges, and just think through about everything. I mean, I see, for example, a rise of consultants, but there is 2 sides to that. The first thing is that, I mean, when I was a consultant, I saw that there are 2 reasons why somebody wants a consultant. The first reason is that there is some blindness and you can't see the whole story, and you need an external person to come and have a look and interview everybody. And by the way, that's also just a momentary thing. So if you interview the same people now and you interview them in 6 months, they are going to say different things probably. So that's the one side of it. And the other side of it is when somebody needs an external push in order to be accepted internally. This is something that obviously doesn't happen at LSPs as much as it happens at the enterprise customers, especially organizations where there is like a lot of politics involved. And these are the 2 reasons. But there's another thing on the customer side, because like, customers also may accept some of the stuff that the consultant says. They may accept everything, but very often there is no feedback. There is not enough feedback. And maybe that is because of the high hourly fees. Maybe that is because things are not taken like word per word, but as inspiration, which I think is all good. But very often I think that consultants, like one of the things that I didn't like about being a consultant is that the story never ended, and you didn't really know like what was happening in the end, because by the time you've shown that this is the way, people are able to go that way. Like they don't need you any longer, which is good. That's actually a very good thing. But you are there and like you're wondering whether that way was good or not good.
Yeah.
And then I see Robert is saying that they
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
you. Here's the process.
That can happen as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So-
Well, I really quickly, I think the whole consultant conversation is a very interesting one, and I really enjoyed your insights. And I also think that in the world of consulting, the consultants tell the client what they should do, and then it's the client's job to execute, which I think is what Robert is alluding to here. They pay you, but they refuse to listen to you. So sometimes sometimes the consulting may fall on deaf ears, or sometimes maybe the client. And I don't mean to go down a rabbit hole on consulting, but sometimes the customer learns that the path that the consultant has given to them it's not a great fit. But there's a lot of different things that can happen in a consulting engagement, and everyone is different. But I think that you play that role to a T. And I would love to have you as a consultant at Keylingo, and I'm sure that our audience would as well. So I hope everyone is going to István's LinkedIn profile and checking out BeLazy. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing we have like 6 minutes left, so we've got to get to the next theme. Lou, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask him about his role as an influencer before we transition?
No, just I really like what you mentioned about building a community. Is this something that you're planning to do, like together with BeLazy, or for example with the Gala Academy? You mentioned that you work with the Gala Academy. You carried out a session on the first quarter of this year. So is this something that you're planning to do with Gala, with BeLazy?
It's like at the moment I don't know how I'm planning to do that, because the thing is that with Gala we had a little bit of a meeting, like in person. But I think we would need some kind of a space, like virtually or non-virtually, to actually meet and discuss things, like as a special interest group or something like that. With BeLazy we had one initiative, which was the BeLazy Activity Room, BAR. Is an abbreviation.
All right.
And this is something that my colleague Agnes started like many years ago, and then we stopped this initiative. But I'm thinking about reviving it. It was basically about like a couple of companies that are relatively close to BeLazy coming into a meeting and talking about, like, the speaker was always a different company, like what they've done in terms of automation or what they had in mind in terms of automation. And then the rest could respond to that or resonate to that. And like basically multiple people were talking more about the practices than about the technology there. So at the moment, I don't really know how to do this best. If you have some ideas or you would like to help with that, because I would be willing to donate some of my time to an endeavor like this. But like getting the whole like structure of around it is something that really needs thinking about.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think that sounds like a fantastic idea. And you know that lately we have been seeing like more like a community sense in the industry, like more people are sharing their insights, their idea, and contributing with with each other. So I think that that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Definitely. Even the passwords they are sharing.
Absolutely. Well, the last couple themes that we have, István, I'm gonna do my best to try to integrate them because we've only got a few minutes left today. And I want to start by asking you about integrations and automations. Is there, and I know that the fourth theme that we were going to talk about were the key takeaways from your Gala Academy course, which the subject matter was about integrations and continuous localization, etc. And I wonder if you could demystify briefly integrations and how they're accessible to LSPs. How accessible are they? Let's say.
Well, there are basically three types of automations that I'm thinking about. Like, one is the linguistic type of automation, which is like machine translation quality estimation, automated QA, and so on and so forth. This is from an integration perspective, this is very easy, very simple. Simply because it's like text in, text out. Maybe you need to get some data, but like it's very simple because I mean the worst thing that can happen is that you need to upload the text and you need to upload the translation memory or the terminology. But these are simple and they can be done with APIs very much. And there is also those tools that themselves provide some sort of automation, which is like all of the translation management systems, all of the business management systems have this. And very often people don't use their, templates. They don't use their internal integrations correctly. And I mean, they should try and use this because this is a good first step. And then there is the intra tool like integration, which is the one part where I think most important is to have a map. Like this is what I want to achieve with all of my technology stack. These are the technologies I'm using. I'm doing an inventory here, and this is how I'm using it. And this is where everything makes sense. And like moving towards that in a gradual way. There are like different scenarios. I think that a lot of the industry is reasonably okay with allowing automations in one company's environment. But what is not very good is the intercompany communication. Those are where the tools don't have APIs, for example, or if they have, they don't have enough functionality. And one thing to keep in mind is that all of these APIs that exist there, they are also product managed by usually no separate product manager. So we are a small industry. And what we need to know is that with the APIs, you've got some capabilities. But what I'm finding very often is that people think integration is APIs. I mean, in the broadest sense of the term, much of that is. But there is also like a lot of other technologies like scraping, robotic process automation, orchestration. Like there is a lot of other things out there that can help when the APIs are not good enough.
Sure.
And basically, this is what I'm seeing, that like sometimes there is a simplistic view of data exchange. But unfortunately, the problem with all of this is not what should happen, but what happens if that thing for one reason does not happen. So if some system is down, how will you know that something was not done? And this is where the complication starts.
Okay.
Because obviously we need to be aware of all of the exceptions in order to automate the standard. And the standard automation is like 20% of the work. That's not much.
Okay.
80% is to handle any kind of outliers.
Awesome. Well, I love how you broke that down into three types of automation: linguistic automation, and then automation within one platform, whether that be Plunet or MemoQ or what have you. And then the third one, which I think a lot of companies, including ours, sometimes bumps into is this connecting the different platforms together to make them work. And in closing today, I wonder if you could give the audience one piece of actionable advice related to how they might get started if connecting or integrating tools is their goal. What would be a good point number one? What do they need to do?
Okay, so like maybe I give a very practical one and I give
Perfect.
a mindset.
You go.
Very
Perfect.
practical one. Don't talk, make a video. Because if you are showing a process from the beginning to the end on a video, and you allow three people to analyze this video, then you're going to find out like what are the weaknesses of that process. So what I think is that for understanding a process, the only thing that works is a video.
Okay.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
if
a
you've
really
got
good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
if
I
you've
haven't
got
thought about that.
something else, but the point is don't make it more than 10 minutes because then it's not automatable. Like then you are
That's Mission Impossible.
and like make it short and then try to make it even shorter. Check it with other people, check with all the stakeholders why they are doing something differently. The why is very important. The other thing that I see as a problem is that a lot of companies are very customer oriented and they don't really focus, and this is especially true to the multilingual vendors among the LSPs in the industry, because they are selling to the customer, they are really dependent, they are trying to differentiate themselves from the competition on the customer side. So this is understandable. But unfortunately, usually the volume for automating any customer is low. What we are always seeing is that when you get to the point that, this is the investment that you need to make in order to get something done, and they are like, well, but it's cheaper to do it manually. It's true that it's cheaper to do it manually, probably. But there is another thing that, like, human work at all times introduces some possible errors. Well, let's call them copy-paste errors. You copy-pasted out like one letter less by mistake. This happens to everyone, and this is not really a problem. This is a reality. These are the kind of things that computers don't do. They get this right. And like if you are able to identify the critical moments in a process and automate that, then actually down the road there's going to be less variation, because if you pull everything, like this is the shift left approach. If you pull everything, every decision making to the beginning of the process, then you're actually able to just execute the rest without really caring much about it. Obviously, that requires no last minute changes, no in-process changes, a lot of discipline. But if the volume is small, and these days the volumes are much smaller, you don't get 600-page manuals as often as you get 6-word snippets from manuals. Like, please, to the customers, commit to those 6 words. If you have uploaded the wrong file, don't try to cancel it. Don't try to send an update, because that's costing way more than the translation of those 6 words in an automated way.
Yeah. Wow. István, amazing insights. And I think the comments are evidence enough. We have a comment from Yuka here that says, that's a golden comment from a practitioner. It's always about what happens, not what we think should happen when we are thinking about it, or somebody is only know the concept. Anyway, I probably butchered that comment, but it was a compliment to you. And I can't thank you enough for spending a little bit of time with us today. I'm sure the audience really, really loved it. And we could go on, but we can't take everyone's complete day today. We'll have to invite you back for another session to continue this conversation. And I'm sure you're going to be engaged in a lot of new things that we want to learn about as well. So Can we have you back at a future date, István?
Yes, you can. And I can't thank you enough for having me in the first place now. Like, that's been a great experience working with you. So thank you very much. It's like, I don't do a lot of like interviews like this, and I really genuinely enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, you did an
Awesome.
amazing
That's
job.
great.
You.
It
So-
was great having you.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. We thank the audience for joining us today. And Yuka, I'm sorry if I butchered your comment, but this live event is recorded, and we hope everybody goes and checks it out on YouTube. Please don't forget to connect with István through BeLazy or his LinkedIn profile. There you see the QR code. Thank you so much to my co-host, Ludmila Albelo, our VP of Technology and Innovation here at Keylingo. And we shall see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Luke.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.